in college coaches. It's those that succeed are those that like really buy into their process, really buy into their culture. So I want to be one of those coaches. In college coaches, it's those that be okay with a growth mindset, right? Of yes, you're a really good player. That's the reason why we went out for you. But what else can you add to your game, right? What else can you? What are some things that you can work on and make sure that you're open to that, right? Be okay with. I would say our conference in a regional sense, it's pretty strong. We will probably have 2, maybe 3 in the national rankings. So we're gonna be up against it. So and again, the players come up with these 2 goals: be competitive in conference, and then obviously start to get into the conference tournament. So is that realistic? I think it can be, but it's gonna take a lot of work.
Hello and welcome to the Reflective Coach podcast with me, Coach Luca. I hope you've been enjoying all the recent content. There is so much to share with yourselves and so much to reflect upon. It's another week, it's another guest, it's the Coaching Insight series on this week's episode. And within this, it is Mauricio Lozada. It was great to speak to Mauricio because he has so many different insights about how he approaches the game, his stepping up into a head coach role, what he wants to bring, how he approaches his different elements in terms of his approach and philosophy. And since we've had this discussion, he has progressed into different areas in both his personal and professional life in terms of that combination since we have recorded this episode. So please check out his socials to keep up to date in terms of what he is doing and where he currently is at. However, focusing on this episode in the present time, on that reflection of when this conversation took place, we talked about players and that player development piece, objectives and mentality, what he sets for his squad, what he sets in his philosophy, how he looks and observes at those objectives, both players and for the team as well as the organisation, how that mentality fits from the coaching staff, from his approach as a head coach, from his approach how he wants to instill and work with his players, that mentality from his players and that expectation that he's bringing on board, and the work that comes into play with it as well. We talked in terms of buying of culture, those leaders and how they can create that buy-in, how they can create that dynamic, that philosophy, that environment for all the players to help that buy-in. We talked about data, feedback and language. We talked about what he would like to achieve with those objectives at the end of the season and how he approaches them, whether they're quarterly, whether they're at the end of the season, whether it's just player objective. So there's a real consideration for those objective pieces that you can really put into play. We talked about culture, program, and that development piece. We then looked at consistency, measurables, adaptation, refinement processes, emotion, what he'd like to see on the ideal basis of this program and how it scriptures itself over the way that it is sculpted together. That learning piece, the growth and adaptability for piecing together the identity of the program, his players, and his philosophy. So this is the Reflective Coach podcast with a Coaching Insight series episode for this week's release. And it was wonderful to have Mauricio on and have his insights and continue to build this reflection piece. As we're coming towards the end of November and we're getting closer to December and the end of 2023, I hope you've taken as much away as possible for this year and continue to add to your notes in preparation for 2024, where you can start off with some new objectives for yourself and really build upon the reflections from this year into next year as well. But this is Coach Luca on the Reflective Coach podcast. As you can see on screen, I'm Anthony_Luca96. It's at TRC Podcast _ on Twitter. It is the Reflective Coach podcast everywhere else. You can listen to the podcast on Anchor, Spotify, YouTube, Podcast Addict. You can also find it on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Flickr. It is really helpful when you drop a like, drop a subscribe, and drop a follow, as well as leave a comment. It really does help share all these wonderful guests, the wonderful insights, and the wonderful series which they bring into play. There's so much content which is really beneficial to you. I hope that you enjoy it, but I hope that you can share it with everyone else within your communities, because there's so much content which is beneficial to them and that they can really support the podcast as well. But drop that follow, drop that like, drop that subscribe. It does really help the podcast. And any share across your socials will be really welcomed. Enjoy this week's episode. It's a wonderful episode as it is as always. This is the Reflective Coach podcast with Coach Luca featuring Mauricio Lozada.
But can you, as I grow into this role of like, this is just how we do it, right? And not in a my way or the highway, not in that sense, but like, this is why it has worked, right? Because it's been consistent, it's been measurable, um, and, and we have adapted enough as we've gone that we have refined it, right? And obviously, one season to another is might be a little bit different, but it cannot be that it's emotion, emotion, emotion.
How are you though? You okay?
Yeah, no, it's we're good. I'm actually at a USA Cup right now. It's a big event, and um, we're coaching my one club team, and then obviously doing some recruiting for my college program. So it's going to be a busy weekend.
Busy indeed, and then fitting in a podcast in between as well to add to the even more busy weekend, which is great. Just shows that commitment.
Absolutely, yeah. No, we are. When opportunities like this come, we got to jump with them. So I appreciate the time, and hopefully it works because of internet and all that kind of stuff. So,
That's right, no problems. Well, I appreciate
but
it too.
yeah, and obviously if we need to redo it, let me know.
Yeah, of
I'm
course.
here to help as much as I can.
Fab, love that. What an attitude. And when you go to these events and you're scouting and you're talent IDing and you're recruiting, etc., how many events will you typically go to now?
So I just got hired as the head coach. So this is my first go event. So here in July, we are doing 5 events. Um, so pretty much every weekend I've been busy, and I'm going to be busy until the end of July. And then we start our preseason, and then I'm pretty much with the college program. Since I'm going to be coaching in Iowa, Iowa high school doesn't run at the same time, so I'm going to really focus on the program, and then we get back at it in the spring, and then last summer just being busy every weekend, getting out there and seeing some talent.
I love that, and it sounds great. And congratulations on the new post. Very exciting times for you, and it's great that you get to shape that in your own philosophy and your own style of thinking, and building on what's been done. And also, you're recruiting now. You've got even more accountability, even more pressure, but even more enjoyment to take things your way, which is really exciting.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've been this has been the job that I've been working towards as a head coach in a college game. It is something that I'm very passionate about, and obviously now getting the first of it. After 7 years of being an assistant, we have picked up some things, and now it's that performance stage, right? Of all right, let's use all that experience and the coaching network that I have to really get out there and again, hopefully, not just get amazing players, but also good people, and that's part of as we're growing the identity, the player profile that we want. We know the basics are be good human beings and be good students, and then we'll take care of the second piece. Not that I know everything, not that my staff knows everything, but I think the X's and O's are going to be there. I think the being a good person, being a good student, that is things that we can be out of our control a little bit. So again, that's the fundamentals. That's the bare minimum that has to happen for us to find these players.
I love that, and I love that you touched on identity as well, because it was sort of building into my next question. So it's great that you've touched upon that and brought that into play. So you've got that identity on players and persons, within that, and what you'd like to see from them, and how you're going to utilize that within the program. But if someone had to say to you, what is your identity for how you want your team to look? What is that going to look like for you then, as you shape that and bring it together?
So obviously, I just got hired in May. So right now, this fall, I'm taking it as year zero, right? Like, yes, we're in the job. Yes, we want to come in and change everything. But the reality is that the previous staff was there for 5 years. So there's been a way of doing things, a way of how we go about our everyday stuff and their profile, right? So I don't want to lose every player that we have. So I have to come in of, yes, here are the things that I want, right? Be good human beings, control what you can control, take care of business in the classroom. And then we're going to start laying in what I want to see in a player that I bring in, that I go recruit, right? Again, be a good human being, be a good student, have some technical ability, be okay with a growth mindset, right? Of, yes, you're a really good player. That's the reason why we went out for you. But what else can you add to your game, right? What are some things that you can work on and make sure that you're open to that, right? And then obviously a soccer IQ will be important. But again, if you have everything else, myself, my staff, we can take care of the X's and O's. We can take care of the tactical pieces. We can take care of, cleaning up some of that technical pieces. But if you're going to be hard to work with, or student just doesn't go to class, right? All those kind of things, like, okay, well, we don't need that because we're hoping to get a 26 to 30 players, and the bare minimum, be a good human being. Want to be there, want to be a good student. That's in my mind, that's where you earn your playing time. The fact that you're taking care of business in the classroom, and because it's a privilege to be a student athlete, to play college soccer, it's a privilege. And anybody that says otherwise, like, I get it. There's Division 1, there's Division 2, there's a different mentality. But at Division 3, you're a student athlete, so you're a student first. So can you go take care of business in the classroom, ask for the help that you need? We do have those resources, but you have to earn your playing time, your spot on our team in the classroom.
I love that, and I think that's such a great insight in terms of what you expect from your players and how you want them to look in and out of the classroom, and how you build upon picking your teams from there and that selection and how that looks. So, that's a couple of good insights in terms of player themselves as well as team selection, and what you want to bring and how you're certainly then going to build on your identity, which is really exciting. And there's quite a few things within that. So, obviously, you have transition from the previous head coach to yourself. You've got recruitment on terms of that. You want the team to look in a particular way. You're not trying to rush things too quickly. You're building a squad of 26 to 30 players. You don't want to lose any, and then it's as you said, game intelligence and how you look at that, how you look at in the classroom. And when it came down to that transition then from previous head coach to yourself, was that something really easy to do, or was that a little bit in the back of your mind, such as what was their identity and how I shaped that, and then obviously you're taking your time to relay things and not rush things too quickly then?
Yeah, so obviously going through the hiring process, I've done different snippets from administration and the athletic department, and then one of the first things that I did was get individual meetings with the players, and that was one of the questions of, like, all right, how was the last 2 years? How was the last 2 years? How was the last 4 years? Right, depending on where they were at, right? what have been things that you have loved, and what are some things that you like? All right, yeah, and can we make sure that you're aware of this, right? Um, and then the second question was like, what do you want to see in the program, right? Well, if you could, if this could be the ideal place, if this could be something that you come in and you implement, like what would you like it to look like, right? And then obviously getting 20 different answers, and I won't say that it was different, but um, there was enough variation that I'm like, okay, so there seems to be a range, one. But two, the goals across the board were pretty consistent. So I'm like, all right, so it seems like there was an identity, there was a way of doing things. Um, and I'm in the learning phase. I'm gonna take all the information in. I do plan to follow up with the previous coaches and be like, hey, you know, can I get some insight, right? And then, but at the same time, as we're learning, you start thinking about, all right, so that makes sense. Let's keep that. Yeah, that doesn't make sense, and maybe we don't necessarily say like we're done doing that, but we start tweaking it a little bit and start making it us, and and putting that, either if it's mentality or culture, or whatever word you want to use, right? Then we start building that a little bit. Um, Again, I don't know if I'm right. I don't know if I'm wrong, but that's the approach I want to take because um, I've heard some stories, and as much as the coaching world is massive, everybody knows of everybody in one way, shape, or form, and some people can get away with starting from square one, and some people it takes time, right? So I am on the women's game. The assumption is that it's change is a little bit different. Not good or bad. It's just what it is, right? So can I make sure that I'm sensitive to that piece? And at the end of the day, it's for the players. It's not about me. It's not about my craft. It's for the players. So we need to make sure that we create the environment that's is where they want to be, right? So that means that I take things that have done, and done before, and they want to continue, and I don't like them, but like it's getting the best out of them, and it's helping them be here. All right, I got to deal with it. All right, and then if there's some things that I'm just that's a little weird, okay, then I can put in the reason why I'm going to change things. So I know it's a long-winded answer, but that's kind of where I'm at. I'm just learning, taking it all in, taking all that data, and now start making some decisions of what the next couple of months are going to look like.
It's a great answer as well because it gives a true insight in terms of your mindset, the way that you're thinking, the way that you're going to approach things, the considerations that you have, that player voice that you've included. Taking on that feedback is really interesting as well from the players and making sure, well, trying to understand the tone of what was taking place and trying to get the tone that the players were having a mutual whereby the majority are understanding of what the objective and identity was, which allows you to understand. But when it comes down to, say, objectives then and setting it and looking at what that is, are you setting an objective for your team for this year? Or is it sort of looking at periodization, say, as working in, a block of one and then a block of two, block of three, block of four, and looking at the year like that? Or how are you approaching the season in terms of objectives then?
So I'm very proactive. I try to be very proactive. So obviously I'm prioritizing the season, and I don't know how much you know about college soccer, especially D3 here in the U.S., but is the games are frequent events. I mean, I think I just got done with. And I think there was like 1 week where I have three events, well, 3 games, 4 games in a week, and I'm like, when are we going to train, right? So obviously periodizing the season as much as we can. Um, and obviously, one of the things that I want to implement is asking the players for feedback. So what we're going to do is we're going to rank 1 to 5. 5, I coach, I'm dead. Like, I got no legs. Like, maybe I don't even show up to training tomorrow, right? Like, I am physically, mentally, psychosocially, I'm done, right? And then 1 is like, hey, let's go. We're ready to rumble, right? So what I want to do is, I don't know if it's myself, I don't know if it's my staff, but after every training session, just asking like, where are you at? Where's 1 to 5, right? And then taking an average of that. For instance, if they come back that we're all at 3 or whatever, right? Okay, so maybe you can bump it up the next session, even though that we have periodized it, right? Now that's where like we done the work rate, the work before. So now by taking this information from players, we can tweak it, right? So I'm gonna try it, see how it works, and then again, this is a learning year for me. So I gotta understand, what are some of the areas on the field that we need to go recruit. What are some of the areas that, okay, maybe we're okay for the next few years with midfields. So let's really focus on something else, or really focus on these other areas. And then, as we have all these plans, as we have this prioritization, this the living document, right? So as the information comes in, as the data comes in, then adapt. And the beauty again is that our season is 3 months, 3.5 months, depending on playoffs and all those beautiful things. So there isn't a lot of time to waste, right? So we're going to be as prepared as we can, and then we're going to adapt as needed. But I think it's going to take time, and that's what I keep trying to tell myself. I'm not a patient person, so this is going to be probably the biggest test of, all right, this is the approach you want to take. Can you buy into the process? Because if I buy into the process, then I think, our student athletes will as well, right? If they see the reason, if they see the why, and they see the results, man, you got them. And then that can be the way we do things going forward. And then if it blows up in our face, it's 3 months, and and then we start at it in November, but that time in November, like, we're pretty educated on why we would do things differently, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. No, I think that makes a lot of sense, and it just shows that I'm a little bit like you. I get very impatient with things, especially when I know I want them to happen. Especially if I put time frames on them, and I have this expectation that things can happen ahead of time. Especially if I was in that position, knowing I got a squad coming in, I want this to look a certain way, I want to put my identity across, I want this environment, I want that culture, I want players to build this, I want a player profile, I want to stamp my authority, I want my coaching team to do this. And when all that comes into play, and obviously all those accountabilities, all this excitement, all the prospect that comes with being a head coach, and that excitement of getting where you want to be, there's a lot that comes into play. So when it comes into delivering that and trying to get that across, we're going to be very impatient at times, because the excitement can overdraw us and pull us into that. So coping with that and trying to tell ourselves to slow down when we're naturally fast-paced people can be quite difficult to cope with.
And it's a skill, right? And it's going to be a skill like anything in life. I will be honest, it's a skill I don't have. So, but this is not a job like all the other coaching jobs I've had before. The people that I work for, the coaching network that I have, the people that have been successful are those people that like stick to the plan, right? And yes, have no problem making the tweaks and the changes necessary, but they don't get stressed by change, and by something not going well in training or games or anything like that, right? Those are people that are calm and collected. Like, again, what I've seen, I could be completely wrong, but what I've seen in college coaches is those that succeed are those that like really buy into their process, really buy into their culture. So I want to be one of those coaches. I want to be one of those leaders that, hey, my process might not work for everybody, and that's okay. That doesn't make it good, better, worse. It's just what's gonna help us be successful. And I think that like college is just a different beast. It's probably like the growth, right? Of emotion can be a little bit, celebrate the goal, but really is outcome, how collected, how you use the data, how do you use the feedback to just make the tweaks necessary instead of, all right, well, let's back to square one because that was awful and not freaking out in the moment. So again, that's going to stretch me as a leader to take this approach, but again, everything that I've experienced and I've seen, it has worked, right? And again, I'm very fortunate that I have been part of 4 college programs that have been fairly successful, and that's one skill that I saw in most of those coaches, that they're just being calm and relaxed, and even if they were freaking out, right? Because I would say that they were, right? But the fact that they're like, hey, it's okay, we get back to it. It's gonna work out. So maybe that's what we're gonna try.
I love that, and I think that's great as well in terms of just what you say to your coaches and how to support them as a head coach, as well as a person understanding, the levels that they can come across as well, and how they might need to cope with things, and how you further support them collectively as a coaching team. And when you talk about that data and that feedback, and obviously, you're new in the head coach in terms of this role, but you have lots of other experience behind you. You're currently in talent ID, and you've had your thoughts towards how you'd like to approach things. When it comes to, say, collecting that data and that feedback and what you'd like to see and utilising that in a process where you can support the players and maybe refine it, obviously that's going to come over a period of time as you grow as a head coach and what you'd like to see, etc. But whilst you, say, collate that feedback and you have coaches taking part, etc., do you streamline that feedback in terms of the expectations of what you'd like to see, or say a script as such? Or is it more generalised and then trying to find the specifics and then building on it from there?
I think the art of it is the combination of both, right? Of there'll be times that you're gonna have to make a decision on the feedback that you get that one moment, right? But I think a lot of the times, and I would say this for myself, is that if you live in that world the entire time, an emotion kind of kicks in, and emotion kind of actually dictates a little bit of that data, right? But I also want to make sure that we build processes as we go that, it's not boring, but it's consistent, right? It's consistent. Like, yes, there'll be times that, you can be high, you can be low, but for the most part, it's just that even keel, right? So I think that the art of it is just having a combination of both, of be okay with dealing with change, be okay with dealing with, it's a rainy day, it's a windy day, whatever it might be, right? Player is just not feeling it, all that kind of stuff, and adapt in the moment. But can you, as I grow into this role of like, this is just how we do it, right? And not in a my way or the highway, not in that sense, but like, this is why it has worked, right? Because it's been consistent, it's been measurable, and we have adapted enough as we've gone that we have refined it, right? And obviously, one season to another might be a little bit different, but it cannot be that it's emotion, and highs and lows, because that's a great way to burn out and be out of the job, right? So again, it's not something I have. So I know I'm speaking about the ideal, right? But one of the things that I've told myself, and as I've spoken with mentors and all that, is like, we're going to learn and we're going to grow and we're going to adapt, and the patience is going to be, improved upon. But it's not about, again, it's not about me. It's not about my staff. It's about the players. And I think that at the end of the day, if we take that approach, okay, then let's learn new skills as we go and be okay with that, right? So that's kind of where I'm at in my professional life at this point.
And again, another fantastic, insight in terms of where you're at and what you're doing, and how that might look at and proceed as well in the future. And I'm very similar. I work in teaching every day, and some of the conversations that I have, they provide a broader context of information because we're able to look at, the wider picture and all the information that covers it in terms of that context. So we're not taking too much away from the specifics. And just having that as a highlight. But sometimes when we come back to actually feeding back in a certain process whereby we utilize an online system to collect that data, what we're then missing is sometimes that generalization of information to support what we see when it comes to data collection in a formal process. So we got those specifics, but then sometimes we're taking that data and information, but we don't have anything to back it up. So all those conversations that we might have had, that information may have been lost over time. So that feedback isn't as impactful. So I think it's, as you say, a very fine balance between that specific and generalization, which can provide a broad context, which is really important. And, that's when it comes down to then that leadership, that management to then go, right, we need to do this at this time, and then we need to utilize this at another time, but we need to combine it in a process that is really beneficial. So you're not overgeneralizing and having too much information, spending all that time, which is being lost and not working smart. But then when you have that data and that backup, for example, if you're going into a player review, or you need to talk about a context a bit more with a player, or sit down or anything like that, at least then you have the backup to actually go in with it and say, I spoke to Coach Joey, I spoke to, Coach Michelle, etc. And then you've sort of got that in your arsenal as a backup as well. So, I think it's fantastic that you said that, to refine, looking at refining that over a period of time and how that may look, but trying to get that right balance will be the nature and true test of leadership and management, but one which I'm sure you'll nail and do really well at.
Yeah, no, and again, going back to the experience, right? I've been an assistant for 7 years. I've worked with 4 different programs, 2 men, 2 women, different styles of coaching. I've been in different staffs where, I would say that I would fall more on the emotional piece of coaching. But I am, I'm 32 now. Like, that cannot be the only way I coach, right? And I would say that that's never going to go away. It's just not, right? It's how I view the game, it's how I'm passionate about the game and all that kind of stuff, right? But I always go back to, it's not about me anymore. It's about the players, and make sure that they have the environment where they can, learn the style of play, the X's and O's, the tactical piece, the why we do what we do, right? And then in game day, like, have we performed that, right? All the work that we've done, all the conversations we've had, film, I mean, all that, can we package it where they can come in and they're ready, right? And then in that game, it's not so much easy, but the process, the reasons why, the style of play, it's what we do, right? And then my staff, myself, we make the little tweaks and adaptations necessary, but it's not forget everything, because obviously this team is different, right? No, it's more prepared than we are, but do it with a purpose. I think it's those highs and lows kind of go away, and it's part of a professional environment in a sense for me, and I want to make sure that I deliver that to players, right? That is just so consistent, so one way of doing things that it becomes our identity, right? It becomes who we are, and yes, the game has been around for ages, and it will be around for ages after us, right? So why complicate it? Does that make sense? But again, I'm gonna draw from experiences as a youth coach, as a director of coaching, as an assistant coach, to now put all of that and all the leadership development and coach management and player development, all that kind of stuff, and continue to learn because I don't know everything. And I think that the moment that I say that I know everything, I think that's the moment that I gotta go do something different. I have an insurance background. Maybe I go to that. My bachelor's is in social work. Maybe I go do that, right? But until then, it's about the learning, growing, and I'm very fortunate that I have a coaching network where I can call somebody that for advice and hold me accountable for stuff. So and then obviously learning what they do instead of reinventing the wheel. Again, the game has been around forever. The game will be around forever after us. So it's about what we do with this moment and what we do with these opportunities. And I'm excited. I'm excited for what's ahead. But again, it's just the X's and O's are going to be fine. It's the can we bring in student athletes that are just good people, wanting to compete to the best of their ability. That happens, we will take care of all the sacrifices.
Again, another fantastic answer, and it, builds upon everything that you said so far. When it comes down to that, then not rebuilding that wheel. I love that you've touched upon that and brought that into play because some coaches think that they have to be, the next Pep Guardiola, whereby they have to bring a complete different playbook and they have to reinvent the game entirely, or be, the next generation of doing something different, and that is really hard. And I remember being asked on my UEFA B coaching license, how would you like the game to be seen in 10 years, or how do you think the game would be seen in 10 years? And that is such a difficult question to ask because, how many different ways can you pass a ball, or how many different ways is the ball going to be played? It's like, right, am I going to start playing out from the side of the pitch off a throw-in and look for throw-ins and build? The game could end up going in a different way, yes, of course, and adaptability and tactics and frameworks and all that. But how it's going to be played is a very broad and very difficult question. And the whole purpose behind that was to try and instill that vision, how you'd like the game to look, and looking towards the future in that vision and all that. But it was a very tough question whereby I still haven't found the answer to that. And although I studied the license a few years ago, I'm still not having to define an answer that I'd be happy with to give, and it's one that I'm still finding. So when it comes down to that, though, when we have coaches that may take over as head coaches or come into the coaching team or start out in the coaching world because they're finding it, they don't always have to do something different. Just by tweaking something which has already been done doesn't necessarily mean they're being a bad coach because they're doing what others have done or they're playing in a style that someone else played. Guardiola didn't get to his point without Cruyff, and Cruyff didn't get there without Michaels. So it's that process whereby it's just taking something and tweaking it to how it fits you, and therefore Guardiola has had the knock-on effect on the new Leicester manager and knock-on effect for Arteta, Xavi Alonso, and they're going to have a knock-on effect that continues. But when it comes down to our identity, we might take something and how that may look is how it might fit for us. So it's not all about reinventing the wheel. We don't have to completely play the game totally different. So for any coach out there, take something, build on it, and if you change it entirely, then congratulations.
Yeah, and I think that I would add that just be mindful that just because it works for somebody else doesn't mean it's going to work for you. At the end of the day, you still have to be yourself. As I've spoken, I want to run my program in a certain way, and I want to build all these processes. But I know I'm still gonna be emotional. I know I'm still gonna probably jump after we score a goal. I'm still gonna be me, and how I build the environment, how I connect with the players, how I go about my day to day. I still have to be me, and I think that the relationship building that's where it's gonna make it or break it for us, right? Because again, we can bring amazing players, but if my coaching style does not fit them, right, then it's gonna be tough, right? So yes, don't reinvent the wheel. I don't believe in reinventing the wheel, but when you take something from, and I'm saying taking it because I don't have a better word to use, borrow, inspired by someone else, you still have to be yourself. And because at the end of the day, like, the players that we have now, like, they know how to read people more than anyone before. So part of coaching is really authentic. And again, like, that doesn't mean that you cannot and I'm saying it because that's how I started the conversation. I want to work on these things. So you can still reinvent yourself. You can still, pick some knowledge or whatever. But at the end of the day, be yourself. Be okay with that. Be okay with your coaching voice, because that's going to make the process of growth a little bit easier, and the process of, taking all these ideas a little bit easier. If you, are passionate and all of a sudden you're super quiet, it's just not, it's not going to go. I could be wrong, but that is one thing that at the end of the day, I still want to make sure that I'm myself. I still, my players still need to know who I am on and off the field, right? Because that's part of it. As much as we would like to be just soccer, coaching left to right, you still have to be a human being, and you still have to show who you are to your players. That is really where you build a trust, and the fact that this is why we do what we do. And as much as we wanted to be in the environment and in the games and then and the film and all that kind of stuff, I would say that the biggest times that I've gotten to with a player is in those one-on-one conversations, or the being silly about something or whatever. I think that's where the trust is built, and the sense of, all right, this is, I'm going to do it because I know this guy, or I know this woman really well, right? And I understand them a little bit more of why they're crazy, or why they're the best coach ever.
And there's so much within that, which is great again, and building that trust, that process. It links back into what we've been talking about, process, which is good, and those relationships between the players and how they may approach something themselves, and how we have that two-way street that goes in it. But just to touch upon the one bit that you said, that players can read people better than they ever have before. Why do you think that is then?
I mean, let's face it, not every kid, but for the most part, this generation, like, they've had access to information so much faster than anyone else, any other generation before us, right? Maybe they're not street smart. For those, I think you guys know what I'm talking about. But they've seen more than anyone else. So the fact that their TikTok is 15 seconds, and they pretty much know everything about that person, or I don't even know what social media they're into now, to be honest. I can barely keep up with Instagram and all that kind of stuff. But it's just that access of information. I mean, they've been around it. They've had a phone or a tablet at such a younger ages. It's just that's my that would be my assumption of why these kids are just 12-year-olds are not 12-year-olds. But again, I could be wrong, but that's how I see it. That they're growing up faster and faster.
And I'd love that you've touched upon that as well, because I think that's an important consideration for any coach at any level as well. That information is being accessed and players want to know who they're working with. So as much as you're on a recruitment weekend this weekend and you've got so much information available, you've got clips, you get to see them, you've got players approaching you, etc. They're also going to be doing it on the flip side. So the game's almost changing in the way that players recruit coaches and programs to suit themselves rather than it being the other way around. And that's something which has a real big dynamic out there, and it touches upon so much. So when it comes down to that, though, do you find that exciting, or do you find that another challenge to take on board?
It's exciting. It's again, um, I have to work not so much harder but smarter. But, I have to know what the next social media is. I have to know where players are accessing that information. I have to make sure that what I do and how I do it, it's 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 educated and what the trends are now, right? Um, you know, long long gone are the days that you send an invitation in the mail for a player ID camp. Like now it's like do the graphic, put it up, send it to everything, and and players know that. You know, they know that now the fact that you're gonna also have to talk to families as well, and it's not just the player, right? As much as especially we like it to. Um, but again, it's just it's exciting for me because again, it keeps me young, quote unquote, that I have to keep up with the trends. I think that the days that I'm like, I don't want to learn another thing or I don't want to know about something else. Like that might be the time that I have to move to something different. Maybe the professional game. I don't know. But I think it's exciting. Is it draining and scary and everything? Absolutely. But I think again. Our players are just smarter. And if that means that I just have to work smarter, then great. They're helping me as well. Continue to grow. So
Absolutely. So it's again that two-way street which we touched upon earlier, and if players can help us grow in the process, it's going to be even more exciting because as a head coach, you're going to learn how to manage your players, how to mentor them, how to implement tactics like communication, and if you've got all that in your arsenal, you've got a great experience already. But when you step into that head coach role, you've got that lead, you've got that accountability, you've got that responsibility. You're stamping things your way. There's a lot more that comes into play, and then as the players grow and they adapt, and technology is accelerating faster than it ever has before, and these players got profiles and they're seeing different things within the news and they're being impacted. We have to manage players in a very different way in the modern age, and it's quite scary as well how fast things are moving in terms of the technology. So, even reading things on Twitter such as companies replacing people with AI, and then having conversations with kids in school and that I teach today. It's quite scary how that is starting to look. So, the way that we say manipulate information, we read books and we take that on. Just as you touched upon there, AI is going to digest information that may take us a few weeks to read, and within a matter of seconds. And so, that game is evolving and moving. So therefore, our players' intelligence is going to accelerate with that. And therefore, we're going to have to support them in different ways. So again, that comes back to that question: how does the game look in 10 years? But technology is having such a huge overall across how players are thinking in the way that they're interpreting things as well. But whilst we get back to maybe away from the technological advances and getting back to on the pitch in the park at the end of the year, and the first year's past as head coach, how would you like to look back at the end of the season and go, yep, I'm happy with these achievements? What would you like to see?
well, obviously, two of our goals is one, we have to be competitive in our conference. I would say our conference in a regional sense, it's pretty strong. We will probably have two, maybe three in the national rankings. So we're gonna be up against it. So and again, the players come up with these two goals: be competitive in conference, and then obviously start to get into the conference tournament. So is that realistic? I think it can be, but it's gonna take a lot of work. But this is my year zero. And I say that because we're just gonna take everything in. We're gonna, yes, trust me, I am not a great loser. I am not. But again, it's not about me. So it's making sure that I still, like, as we're putting in the culture that we want to build, understanding that, hey, like this is gonna take time. This is gonna take a 2, 3 year, 4 year process, and that's okay. But again, competitive in conference, try to go into the conference tournament. So from winning and losing, like that's part of it. And I know people say like winning is everything. It's not, but it does help cultivate a culture, right?
Absolutely.
You cannot get players, bought into what we do if you go all in 20. It's not going to happen. Now, you could also go 20-0 and have one of the worst cultures in the world. Yes, absolutely. But you can probably have harder conversations if you're in that realm, right? So can we go 500? That really helps. Start to going in the direction we want to go. Start standardizing a lot of the stuff that we do and how we train, how as basic as how we do laundry to how we do team meetings, how we do player meeting, right? Like standardizing some of that stuff, and then understanding where we need to go recruit. So unfortunately, I cannot at this point go get 20 players. As much as I would love to, I cannot. And I say that because we're pretty late. It's not a knock on players or anything. It's just where it is. So instead of thinking about the deal, then we again look at what's been done, look at what works and what we can continue to do and what doesn't work, and then start building from there. Getting the buy-in from our student athletes, getting the buy-in of, okay, this is why, right? This is why we're going to do it and how we're going to do it. And this is what your responsibility is in that, right? And then obviously asking for feedback of, okay, what do you want to see, right? And then if it makes sense, if it makes my staff's job easier, why not? Right? Like, why not? The players at the end of the day, I always have believed this, and I'm kind of continue to believe this. I don't get to get on the field. The players do. So if they see something that we're not seeing, if they're understanding something that we're not, it's okay. It's okay to ask for feedback from players and just be like, all right, that makes sense, right? Just like I am telling them my why, I gotta be okay with them telling me theirs, right? And that's how we build trust. That's how we build a culture that they have buy into that as well. Because at the end of the day, they're going to be the ones on the field. They're going to be the ones that have to perform, right? But if that give and take happens, I mean, if I can work on other stuff and I can, add other layers because we have players that are bought in, I mean, the sky's the limit on what we can accomplish. So I guess it's a long-winded answer of I want our student athletes to buy into the process. And can we be anywhere near 500? Like if those two things happen, all right, now we have a foundation that we can build on.
And again, that's fantastic in terms of that foundation, how you're thinking, that 3 to 4 year plan, instilling things and how you continue to then review and look forward, and that standardization, which is really important. And again, you've touched upon feedback, which is great. And, looking at that feedback in terms of how you get that from your players then is really important, how you shape that program and how you build it, as well as how you evolve as a coach. And getting that feedback can be done in multiple ways. So whether it's one-to-one conversations, whether it's an open forum, whether it's a Google Docs, whether it's one-to-one player meetings, whether it's a general team meeting, how are you going to collect that feedback? Have you thought, you know what, an open forum would be good, or whether it would be more beneficial to have one-to-ones? Is that something that you've already started to think about how you would like to do that? Because obviously there's pros and cons to everything, but what are the ways that you're thinking about it though?
Yeah, no, I think so. Like I said, so after every training session, we're gonna get automatic feedback of where they're at physically, mentally, psychosocially. Like that's so technically we're gonna get feedback every day. Yes, there's a number, but we're gonna put what that number means, right? So when the player says I'm a 3, this is what it means. Perfect, awesome, right? So daily, we'll get some type of feedback. The second way, I want to start building a process in place of, all right, maybe every 2 weeks, here's my times that I'm going to be available in my office. If you want to have an individual meeting, sign up, come in. We take care of it, right? More official, right? Because again, hopefully, as we're building trust, as as they're trying to fill me out, they can come in every day or during training or after training, whatever, and say, hey, coach, can I talk to you about this or that or whatever, right? And then I want to start having kind of like a American football approach of, we're going to have a goalie meeting, we're going to have a defensive meeting, we're going to have a midfield meeting, right? And again, start layering that in as well, because I'm not saying that they don't, but sometimes our players don't know how to have those hard conversations, right? Of like, if we're gonna play with 2 6s, like, this is what it means to play with 2 6s, right? And this is what your role is, this is what my role is, and again, facilitating that, right? Of, hey, when one steps, the other one drops in, right? This is what it should look like, right? When they say, I'm gonna crush your ball, this is where the cover, right? All that kind of stuff, right? And again, I don't know that our players will have those tools, and if they do, then there's no need for those meetings. I'm gonna make the assumption that they don't, and if they don't, then again, this could be a great time where I'm facilitating. I'm not gonna tell them X, Y, and Z. Now, if they're way out left field, yes, I will. Well, I don't know about that, but again, just facilitating the conversations between our outside back and our center back, and how do we switch the point of attack, or whatever it might be, right? And again, and I think that could be very beneficial. So I guess for right now, those are the 3 things that I'm looking at implementing as we go. Again, that's the plan. If we need to have team meetings every week, we will do it. If we need to do whatever we need to have buy-in from our players, that at the end of the day dictate what it is that we do. And I know it's tedious, and I know it's work, but if that is going to get me to get 26 players to give the best for each other, give the best for the program, I mean, that's why I got hired, right? So I don't know. I could be wrong, but that's where we're at right now. I'm going with, I'm 32 and I have the energy, so let's try something different. And then if it comes down that I know everything and I need to tell them what to do, then maybe go that route. But until then, I really want my student athletes to buy into the process.
And it sounds like you've got a very, rigid approach in terms of how you'd like to approach things. Layering everything on top of each other, how you're going to build that in, how you're going to implement that over a period of time, how you'd like the program to accelerate that vision, that outlook. And it sounds like you thought about it in a lot of detail. So how you approach the attackers, the defenders, the midfielders, the goalkeepers, for example, taking data after every game, that feedback, how then you're going to incorporate it, how you review it at the end of the season, refining those processes, that standardization. It sounds like someone who's got a long history of being a head coach, but it just shows how much you thought about it and what you want to implement and where you're going, which is fascinating in terms of what you're doing and where you're going.
Yeah, no, I think again, and don't want to say that I came up with this. It's what I've seen. It's what I've seen work. Obviously, I'm adding my little twist to it, right? But there isn't a booklet. At least I haven't seen. Here's a head coach. Go do it, right? If there is one, I will absolutely buy it. I'll be the first one to buy it. But right now, it's really about the coaching education. I just got done with my B. So we're excited to use some of that knowledge. I been an assistant for 7 years, so I've seen some things. I've been a youth doctor for 14 years. So I've, you know, we're going to use experience. And we're going to make sure that we reach out to our mentors. We're going to make sure that I reach out to my coaching network. And I'm going to have tough conversations. And the people that I trust are the people that will say, like, hey, sounds great. Go do it. Let us know how it goes. And then there'll be people that be like, you're insane. So, right. And again, those are the people that I want to be surrounded by. That's why this was the right time to go after a head coaching job, and I think this is a great opportunity to really get in there and have, like, make a positive impact on the program, but at the same time, like, really brave student athletes that just want to leave their mark, like that. Not that it doesn't happen, but it's rare. So when that opportunity comes, you just gotta run with it. So I'm very excited about it. I'm very excited about continue to learn and continue to grow, and above all, like, learn to be patient. learn to buy into that process that we're building. And I think that if that happens, I mean, I really do think the sky's the limit for us on and off the field.
I absolutely believe that as well, and I think you're going in the right direction, and the way that you're thinking about it definitely shows, a long-term thinker and what you'd like to do and how you're going to bring that forward, as well as trusting the people to do that for you whilst building that team and having those contacts, those networks to really, fall back upon if you need that knowledge and, that maybe just check in and, that reassurance which can come. Because, every leadership position, every management, all the head coach, etc., there's a lot of doubt that can come with it, as well as anxieties or, a lot of questions over a season. Or why is this going wrong? Is this going wrong because of me? Is it technical? Is this tactical? Is it down to my coaching team? Have I trusted them enough? Do I have to take more control? And there's so much which we're going to ask of yourself, ourselves and yourself over that season. I've been in that sort of similar position whereby, when you are accountable for a team, there's a lot that comes into play. So, are the players happy? Are they gelling well? Why aren't they? Are results going our way? How do we impact them? How do we bring subs on? How do we rotate? And every little detail leads to us becoming naturally overthinkers. And the game of football is impossible not to be overthinker because there is so much detail within that. So, whilst it's very exciting, also take the time to relax and chill out over that course of the season, and don't forget who you are at the deep part of it, because the game sometimes can take that away from us because it's consuming us so much. And as said, there's so much detail, so we might spend the evenings reflecting. We might have the only hour we have free in the night to catch up with a player or one of our coaches. There is so much that goes into it, but it's a huge role to go into, a very exciting one, and one as you seem to be very prepared to go into, that you've been building up for a long time. But a very good time, as you said, to become a head coach and review where you're going in terms of how that proceeds, and implementing what you want to implement, and bringing the success which you're going to bring.
Absolutely. This past 7 months, I was working on my B license. So at the same time, I was part of this college coaching credentialing program. So I was part of, it's the first of its kind. So they brought head coaches, they brought assistant coaches in college, both men and women. And, it wasn't about the X's and O's. It was not about the soccer. It was about the mental side of it. Are you taking care of yourself before you can help your team? What does culture look like? Do we need to have, fitness tests at the beginning of the season, right? Like all these other things that we have to try to think about as head coaches, as assistant coaches to an extent, that have nothing to do with the X's and O's, right? So again, that was also a great. It was a perfect timing because again, it was like, it's not just X's and O's, and as much as I would like it to be, that's really not what I'm getting paid for. I'm getting paid to really bring these student athletes provide an environment where is complementing what they're learning in the class, right? Like we're at D3. Like these players, maybe one, hopefully someday, will go into the professional path. But the reality is that they're going to go professionals in medicine and business and education, right? So can our athletic environments be ones that support their time in the classroom? And that's really what I appreciate about this opportunity that I get to really help mold the next leaders of our region and hopefully our country, right? So like that doesn't I don't know that happens anywhere else in the country in the world. Like I know Canada has a little bit, us, and I think I've heard England as well, but that's a massive opportunity. I'm not gonna lie, if I ever get to coach professional path players, like awesome, like that's great, like that again makes my job easier on the soccer side as well. But it's just that all those other things. So yes, the last 7 months were stressful. But doing those two programs at the same time, and when this opportunity came, it was like it's meant to be. This is what, yes, we've been preparing for it for 7 years, but also these last 7 months, I couldn't have asked for a better coaching education piece. To feel like, hey, all right, we're ready to go do this. Doesn't mean I know everything. Doesn't mean that my approach is, amazing in any way, shape, or form. But out of all the jobs I've ever had in soccer, like this is the one time, like, yeah, let's do this. Let's do this. I'm gonna be okay with being patient. I'm gonna be okay with having to adapt. I'm gonna be okay with dealing with the unknowns because we're prepared, because we've seen it, and again, maybe we check in a couple months and I'll tell you how it went. But at the end of the day, it's not about me. It's about the student athletes. And if we do everything to the best that we can, that at the end of the day it's all we can ask for.
And it's fantastic in terms of that combination of the two courses and how that's really pushed you in a direction, but landed something at the right time, which is worked out to be a fantastic opportunity for you. And it's great that you're able to apply what you want to apply now, and that you have an outlook in towards where you're going and maybe where you'd like to land, and certainly that professional game. But is that the dream, or is it the ultimate goal for you?
My goal has always been by 35. By 35, I either was coaching college soccer or I was director of coaching in youth club. That has literally been the only goal when it comes to soccer. Like I said, I went for my undergrad for social work. I wanted to change the world. I wanted to give back and make my community strong and all that. Soccer really didn't come until after college, and I was like, once I got my first assistant job in college, I was like, this is where I want to be. This is where I want to be. So I joke in the professional side just because I think that would be the next thing. But to be honest, if I stay at Buena Vista for the rest of my professional life, that's okay. If I stay in the college soccer game, that's great. Obviously, like I honestly do believe the soccer is going to be there, how it's been, and it's going to be there after I'm done. I don't see why we need to complicate it. And can you bring your own style and your passion and your 2 cents to it? Absolutely. I think that's fantastic. But it's always going to be 2 goals. It's always going to be 11v11. It's always going to be 1 ball. Can you just prepare your student athletes to give their best? If you can honestly say that, I'm never going to be a millionaire, but I get paid to get on soccer fields. Like that's doesn't get better than that. I can deal with all the other things that are going to come up. And again, I'm coaching the women's side, so again, there will be more other things that I'm going to have to be uncomfortable with. But at the end of the day, I'm being paid to be around soccer fields, be around amazing student athletes. I have a coaching staff that I can talk to just like today about soccer, and one of us is right, one of us is wrong, and we're going to have the same conversation again the next day, right? Yeah, at this point, I'm just going to load up, enjoy it, deal with the ups and downs, and, try again the next day.
Absolutely, and that's what it's all about, making sure that you persist and you're moving forward, and making sure that you're enjoying the process within it as well. But it's great that you have this role and you're happy in terms of what you want to do, especially what it might bring and how difficult that is. And we might have a very different Mauricio at the end of the season where he's not smiling as much, but hopefully you still are, because football is a great game that we all love. We all choose to be in it for our own reason, and as you say, you've got a fallout plan or a backup plan with that degree that you have and where it could take you in terms of how many fields that could go into or specifics. So it's great that you got that as well, and but you could be doing that, but you're here coaching because you want to coach and you have that love for it. So, you've seen the highs and lows as an assistant coach. Obviously, now taking on a bit more as the head coach. So it sounds like you're ready. It sounds like something that you want to do. It sounds like something that you're going to do really well at, and I hope that you do. It's going to be a great season ahead. Certainly to continue asking yourself that why and finding that purpose, and bringing that to your team and adapting over a period of time, and that continued learning. So not so formal, but on the pitch itself is going to bring so much with the players. What you do with your coaching team, it's definitely a fascinating season that you've got ahead of you, and certainly a very exciting time where you're at right now, especially with recruitment, especially with pre-season, how the players come on board, how the institution supports you, what you're going to bring, making sure your team's competitive, looking at those objectives, data collation, the analysis. There is so much which is going to come into it and certainly shape you, and you get to shape that. So a very exciting time indeed.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, like, as long as that excitement and that passion is there, like, you can deal with everything else. Again, my why is that I love the game. I love the game, and I want to make sure that it continues to grow, especially here in the U.S. I'm going to the part of the country where soccer is not a top five, and that's okay. That's fine. It's about doing our best to continue to grow the game. If that happens, if we while doing that, if we get trophies while doing that, that's awesome. That's a bonus. But at the end of the day, is can we leave it better than we found it? And I think that is the drive to continue to build a process in place and build a culture that is gonna outlive us, right? And if that happens, that it just doesn't get better than that.
I love that, and I think that's great, and certainly demonstrates where you're going to go, what you want to do, and hopefully leave your mark on it. And if you find it better than you've left it, as you say, looking at those outcomes and how you've left it better is certainly going to be a key consideration, as well as building on a great portfolio just in the process of doing that, without having the aspiration to go, yeah, this is how we have to achieve it, or I have to do this to build this portfolio to do that. So that process is going to naturally create that, which is very beneficial towards yourself, as well as being able to give back to the game in a way as well. Whilst you get paid to do it, you are giving back to the game naturally, and there's so much which a player's going to take from it. So when they become better people, and how they become better people, those interactions, being a group, that synergy, everything that plays into it is going to all be as a result of what you've been able to bring as a person, and then implement that in the role of a head coach, that leadership and how you manage those players. So a fantastic time to certainly be involved in the game, and a great program to take forward and naturally put your stamp on it, which is fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very excited about the opportunity. I'm very excited to get the season rolling. I honestly believe we have a good foundation. It's just now building the why we do what we do and how we do what we do, and starting to have those conversations with our next recruiting class of this is where we've been, this is where we at, this is where we're going, and this is where you can come in and be tomorrow. And at the end of the day, you know that this is gonna take time, and that's okay. That's the fantastic part of college, college athletics, college soccer. Um, as much as we still live in the moment, and we still are about this one game. Um, it's a 3 year, it's a 4 year, it's a 10 year process, and there's going to be ups and downs. But again, if you could stay even keel and still, believe in why you do what you do, just adapt as necessary. The game is just gonna, take care of itself. So I'm excited. I look forward to this, and I can't wait to just get the ball rolling.
Absolutely, and it's going to be exciting to certainly see what you do and how you bring that out, and hopefully continue to have that conversation in the future. And as you mentioned, to come on again to have that reflective process and talk about it. But hopefully we can do it even before that as well. But I wish you the best of luck for the season to come. And I appreciate you taking the time out, especially when you've been traveling and on camp and you've had a lot to do and still got a lot to do and building in pre-season. But getting this in between, I absolutely love it and really appreciate it. Especially as you said at first, let's rearrange it, and then boom, straight away before I could even reply, you're like, no, let's go with it. I think that's a huge testament to who you are and bringing that. So I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me on again. I'm here to help out. I don't know everything about the game. I just am very, very, very fortunate that I am part of a coaching network that we're always pushing each other to just be a little bit better than the day before. So if there's anything I can help in any way, shape, or form, any question you might have, let me know. I will more than likely not be able to answer it, to be honest, but I'll send it to who you need to talk to. That's just the beauty of the game. That's the beauty of being part of a coaching community. That's it's always helpful and continue to grow the game, because that's what we want. We want to make sure that once we're all done with this, soccer is the sport in the U.S.
I love that, and I think that just wraps up a brilliant, capture of who you are and what you're going to bring, and hopefully leave your mark on the game. But that honesty again, and just saying, by not knowing it all, just shows, we're not machines, we're not AI, we don't have every answer. I wish I did, and there's so many books up there which I need to get around to reading, so I can really enhance that knowledge which I know I'm lacking. And I don't protest to be the next, Pep Guardiola, because those tactics I wish I knew, and the X's and O's I wish I aspire to get to, and I know it's work to be done. But I appreciate that you put in any spin on it or contact, which is fantastic. But the answers that you've given, I've really appreciate them, and I've made some notes upon some great moments that you've had and ones that I want to touch upon and certainly listen back to. But they're all been brilliant, and as you said, long-winded, but I think that's brilliant, because you've taken that away of being able just to sit, reflect, listen, and then sort of build on it. So before we come in, there's no real sort of topic that I set. There's no questions, and it's been nice that we've fallen into it, because we've been able to lead a discussion through who you are and what you're doing, to then create an all-round circle into that, and then ask questions and pull it out. But you've got hopefully a great weekend and lots of players to see. But before you go, I'm going to throw some quick fire questions at you, if that's okay.
Perfect. Let's do it.
Perfect. If you had to have someone describe you in 3 words, what 3 words would they be?
Passionate, um, hopefully humble, um, and caring.
Yeah, brilliant. Love them. Fantastic. If you could move to any country in the world to coach, where would it be?
Mm, I every well, I would love to go back to Italy. I think that would be very, very cool. Um, and I think I can get away. Spanish was my first language, so I think I can get away with not having to learn the language, but could be wrong. So Italy would be nice.
Great choice. I love that. Such a fantastic place. If you could have the choice of any job out there, what job would it be in terms of coaching?
Ooh. my favorite team is Real Madrid. I think if you ever get that job, you made it. I'm probably a little bit more realistic. Oh, man. Honestly, anywhere that I can just come in and be myself, to be honest. The game's still the game. So I think that would be the place to be.
And that reiterates that humble value that you spoke about, or that one of the words that were chosen. So I think that's brilliant to touch upon that and build upon it. Who was or is your role model?
So I've been very, very fortunate that I've had great role models in terms of soccer, but also just all around great people. I always go back to my high school coach. He looked like me. He spoke like me. He saw the game the way I saw it. He got me into coaching. That was part of us giving back to the community we were part of. So, I mean, if I am half the coach that he is, I think I'm gonna be okay.
Brilliant. I love one that's close to the heart, and especially that had that impact on a younger self. If you had the choice to be a full-time professional player or a full-time coach, which would you choose?
I coach. I I would say that I'm a decent player. um, but no, just the passion is in coaching, and I would say that I didn't know that until after college. If I would have known that before it, I think I would have done things differently. But yeah, I mean, yes, I like playing, but no, it would be coaching.
I love that answer every time, but it's good that you've ended up in coaching and getting into the game. So, it's great that we haven't lost a great coach like yourself. Who is your all-time favorite player?
So all time, hmm, so I really enjoyed the way Ronaldinho played. Like the guy was all joy, like made things just more exciting, but at the same time, like effortless, right? So I think that from a all time, I would say Ronaldinho, just because again, he was just having a ball. Yeah. Um, I don't know that we'll see a player like that anytime soon.
Absolutely. One of my all-time favorite players, Ronaldinho, and I just loved the game because of him. If you could have the chance to manage any player, who would it be?
I would love to manage Cristiano Ronaldo. I think that would be the ultimate task of, if you're a player management, perspective, like, because, he has such a high standards of himself, that it's like, what can you do to help this person still get to another level, right? Like that, I think that would be, yeah, the ultimate challenge. And obviously, Ancelotti, Zinedine Zidane, you know, um, what's the other one? Am I really forgetting the Portugal head coach? Not head coach. The coach at Real Madrid and Chelsea. What's his name?
Oh, Jose Mourinho.
Yes, Mourinho. Sorry, Mourinho. Like they've done it. Like right. Like they've done it, and obviously, I'm pretty sure they can write books about it. But I think that would be the challenge.
Absolutely. I think some great choices in that itself. What is your biggest pet peeve?
When we make the game harder than it is, like that, right? Yeah. Oh wow. When a player, like I love flair. As you can see by my answer with Ronaldinho, I love that. When it's effortless, when it's let me stop the ball, let me do my step overs, and then like, okay, that you kill the momentum, you kill the point of attack or whatever, right? Like there's no need. But again, there's a fine balance between the two. So I would say that that's my biggest pet peeve. Just play, make it simple. You know, if you wanna, be a freestyler, go do it, enjoy it. But this is about you. It's about the team. So
Great, and it definitely builds upon that answer even further, which is good. What is your favorite thing to do in your downtime?
uh, I need to be outside, and if I can be at a lake, if I can be around water, life is good. Obviously, there is, it's rare, but when it happens, that's my favorite thing to do. Just be in a lake, be in the water, be outside. Because all the other times I'm at a soccer field.
I love that. And what is one thing you enjoy most about coaching?
When you truly see somebody grow, like truly see them grow, not just as a player but as a person, right? Like when there's a kid that comes in, when there's a student athlete that comes in, and you just seeing it happening in front of you. Maybe because you're coaching, but more because it's just clicking, right? Like everything is clicking. That is the one thing that I really appreciate about soccer and just athletics overall. That you can truly enhance people's experiences through the game.
I love that, and that wraps up such a fantastic episode and time well spent with you, Mauricio. And I really do appreciate it, as I said. And it's great that you've come on. And I hope you have a great, fantastic rest of the day, and hopefully take your time to yourself as well to relax in between, especially as those moments will become very rare as the season goes on. But again, a big thank you from me, and hopefully you have a great weekend ahead of you as well.
Yeah, same to you. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I always enjoy having these type of conversations, and let me know if I can be of any help in the future.
That would be great, and definitely will take you up on that offer. But I'll touch base with you, and again, thank you from me. Take care.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
No worries. Thank you.